I could use some help. And yeah, that was hard transition. So.
Is there like a specific instance that you can remember where you like were kind of at a meltdown point with like you had all of these like maybe it was one thing you were trying to do and you just couldn't, or like you got stuck, or like you were trying to do one of those roles and you just really couldn't like make it happen? Is there one or a couple maybe that you could?
I'm trying to think of something specific, or I'm trying to narrow it down to one. Anya, do you have one?
What?
She probably remembers my meltdowns better than I do.
Oh, meltdowns.
Without embarrassing me too bad. Okay.
Okay, what have you done? I think one of your meltdowns was when you took everything out of my room because I wasn't wearing my rubber bands. But a lot of your meltdowns tend to be with the house being messy.
Yeah.
And that's your biggest issue with
Yeah, that's true.
It's always just like
all right, I got something for that.
A few things out of place. It seems like. Spasm. You broke a dish once. You slammed it on the table.
Probably. Okay, so let me think. Okay, so I think, those breaking points come when, you've had a long day, you're tired, you're making dinner, maybe the dog's barking, somebody's calling on the phone, and, the kids are complaining that they're hungry or they need help with their homework, and you're doing something at the sink, and the garbage disposal won't go. And then when you're trying to fix it, the pipe under the sink comes unhitched and water spills everywhere. And it's just like, you're just shaking your head going, what? Why is this happening? As if I need this thing too. And, in those instances, you kind of can't melt down. You just get under the sink with the tools and swear like a plumber and get the job done. And, But, there definitely been other times when I have, you get overwhelmed and, I've, just go in my bedroom and shut the door, or, tell the kids that, go away. Like, just, you have to leave me alone for a while. I know you need help right now. It's not going to happen for at least an hour or whatever it might be. And, yeah, there have been plenty of those times. And yes, and when for me personally, I can't operate with my physical world in disorder. Like, I have to have my house picked up. It doesn't have to be like all spick and span clean, but I like things put away. I have a very creative, busy mind, and when the physical world's in disorder, I can't operate. I just can't. And so I get on the kids quite a bit about just pick up after yourself, take care of your things. And that's something that they will definitely tell you that I think will go down in their history, is like if they ever say, what's the one phrase that your mom's known for that you remember? And it will be, go clean something. So, yeah.
What personal relationships would you say cause you the most stress?
Well, kids are stressful, just raising kids. But beyond that, unequivocally, my ex-husband, it's a very stressful relationship. And then secondly is my mother. She's not an easy person to navigate sometimes. So.
Your support group, who was your support group when you became a single mom? Like, how did that all come together? Did everybody just kind of like descend and kind of help you, or did you have to like?
I was pretty much out there on my own. Yeah, so when I became a single parent, as far as support goes, I very much felt like I was out there on my own. And part of that was, there was some truth to that, but part of it too was my reluctance to ask for help or let people know that I needed help, or to even show that I was struggling in any way. I'm pretty stoic and again, just really capable. And, 80% of that is truth and capability, and the other 20% of it is like false bravado, and but it's how I tend to operate. So I've lived up in this area in Traverse City for 20 years, and pretty much my whole family is downstate. And so my mom lived up here at the time that we did split up, and so she was helpful in taking the girls for a couple hours, or maybe picking them up from school once in a while. I mean, she worked full-time too, but she was definitely there in that regard. I had some good friends for emotional support, but it really felt still a lot of aloneness. It was just really, I didn't feel like anybody really understood what I was going through, the gravity of it. And, that was definitely partially my fault for not really reaching out and letting people know. So.
What are a few things that you, like, looking back, wish, like, maybe people would have done, or if they had noticed, like, stepped in a little, even though, asking for help is definitely learning that it's a good thing, but how could people have, like, are there a few things you could think of that maybe people could have stepped in and helped you with, whether it's like, I mean, it sounds like financially you were doing okay, but like emotionally or like kid-wise or...
Sure. There were things that would have been really helpful from the like doing chores end and from the emotional end. Again, most of my family were downstate, and they knowing me as this capable person, and then when I talk to them on the phone, it doesn't seem like, hey, that Kelly's got any problems. But it would have been nice if they'd picked up the phone and said, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything you need? Would it be helpful if I came up this weekend and helped? Anything like that. And it just didn't happen. It's just partly not how my family operates, and it's not, what they would expect of me. And, but it would have meant the world to me, like beyond the world, to know that they were just thinking about that, So that would have been huge. And as far as, so other friends up here, if somebody said, hey, can I mow the lawn? Or if the neighbor would have offered or something like that, just little things. How about if I drop by and plow your driveway? Or, I don't know,
What are a couple of, like, in the spirit of this not being so, like, how awful was that? What are some, like, you think of, like, 2 specific memories that were, like, really good with your kids, or good times that you had that you were like, this has turned out really great?
Well, early on, early in that mom guilt, there were 2 things that happened with my older daughter, and that kind of, I don't know, put wind in my sails. And so one of them was she was going to try out for like a reality television show, kid show, and we were in line, and she had a questionnaire that she had to fill out. And one of the questions was like, who are your heroes and why? And, I was reading the questions off to her and writing them in. And when I said it, her first answer was, well, you are, Mama. And then she tells me why. And like, I got all teary, and like I'm getting now. And, and in her reasons, and I can't recall them specifically now, but they came straight out of what she was observing me doing as a single parent. Like the work that I was doing, and that, I never give up, and all this kind of stuff. And so, again, it put wind in my sails. I was like, wow, so I'm not the stay-at-home cookie mom, but she's getting something really different and of really high value out of this situation that she may not have otherwise gotten. And so that was huge. And then there was another similar time when, she went to work with me for the day. And she kind of stood up and, modeled what I was doing. And I saw her being really brave, like kind of taking on an adult role and doing something that I would have been very afraid to do at her age, So knowing that I was modeling strength, that, that was great. Nothing about you. Let me see. What with Anya?
What did childcare look like when you became a single mom? Because you said one was in first grade, so she went to school probably most of the time. But then, like, what about in the summer? How did you figure childcare out?
Yeah, early on, childcare was really a struggle, and it was very expensive. So initially, my younger daughter was in preschool half day, and then essentially she was in preschool the second half of the day, but it was paid. So the half day preschool was free. The second half of the preschool I had to pay for. And then after that, they were in latchkey. And altogether, it added up to about $840 a month. So it was like an entire another house payment that I was paying for childcare. So looking back, I don't even know how I did it. I mean, I'm making more money now, but somehow I pulled that off, and I just don't know how. And so that was really difficult. So there was just the cost of it, and then there's the juggling of it. And then, so you're in a new job, and, you don't have a vacation or personal days accrued yet, and you get snow day or you get a sick kid and what to do with them. And again, I don't have family in the area that could take up that slack. And so, that's either an extra cost or staying home and hoping, you get to retain your job by taking the extra time off. And then in summertime, I have to put them in daycare all day, and it's like, man, that's not how I want to spend my summer. It's not how I want them to spend their summer, so it's really hard. So I try to find, the best opportunities that I could afford, with daycare. So trying to get them outside and around other kids and all that kind of stuff. And I know they complained about some of it, and it improved over the years. And then as soon as they were able to and old enough to be on their own at home, that was a great option. So
I feel like we just didn't eat as much back then, so you don't have to spend as much on money or on food.
that's true too. You didn't eat as much,
And now we don't have enough.
but you didn't mess up the kitchen as much either. So
Salad food.
see, clean.
The store, Mom.
Yeah.
We only have.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
What did like your monthly budget kind of look like? Was it really tight? Was there a lot of juggling all of that around, like this one can be late and I'll just get it next month because this one can be late and it's okay?
Budgeting. So back then, yes, the budget was really tight, and still now the budget is very tight. It's essentially paycheck to paycheck, and the most frightening thing are costs that you don't expect, and you hope for a lot of miracles and checks in the mail that you didn't expect, and a few times I've gotten some of those, and at the least expected time, so it was great. But it's always been very tenuous. A second income helps tremendously. I mean, there's just never any sense of security, never. I mean, it's just always the bottom could drop out of it next week. So, and that's just something you learn to live with, that stress too.
What would you say your biggest monthly expenditure was? Like childcare or?
Well, it's always it's house payment. It's definitely the biggest single expenditure, and along with most of the country, I went through close to losing my house, and I was able to keep it. But I went to that point of being 6 days from a sheriff's sale on my home. And I mean, I can't even believe, I've never even talked to anybody else that's like been able to pull it out when it was that close, but it happened. So I'm really grateful for the people that were there, that I found the right resources to make that happen. And I seriously looked at just letting it go, like a lot of people did, just write it off. And when I really sat down and looked at it and what we would have to do in terms of renting a place, what the costs were, moving, the quality of life that might change from that, there was definitely no advantage to letting it go. There was none. I mean, ended up, essentially renting from myself for the same amount of money, but keeping my house. So that was not fun to go through. Let me tell you, that was not fun. Yeah.
How has single parenting changed as your kids have gotten older? Would you say it's gotten easier because they're a little more self-sufficient, or because I know like people say, well, little kids are really expensive, but as they get older, like it's not as much, but they like what they have is more